Hello, chess family. It's me, National Master Jesse James, and today we're going to be taking a look at Develop with a Threat. And this is definitely a treat. This is the Opera House game with Duke Caro and Count Isouard versus Paul Morphy. They actually play this game inside the Opera House. I hear that they were so excited and enthralled with the game that they even got yelled at because they were getting so loud. Well, let's take a look how Morphy creates a beauty, and this is the final position is memorized by many strong chess players. This is why we consider Morphy one of the best chess players in history. Here we go. E4, E5. Morphy's playing with the white pieces, controlling the center. E5 gets played. Knight F3, developing with a threat. And here we see something a little bit different, pawn to D6. This is known as Philidor's opening. I'm definitely not a proponent of this opening, although it does have some good variations. One of the things I don't like about this already is that, well, when D6 does create a very nice pawn chain here, it blocks this dark square bishop from going out to C5. You can see the bishop can go to E7, but not really doing too much over here. Morphy sees this as a weakness, and he decides to control the center all by himself. What does he play here? Pawn move to control the center. Hopefully you saw it. Pawn to D4 gets played. Black went ahead and played bishop G4, and this is already a slight mistake here for black. Typical here is to play something like knight to D7, or maybe just something like e takes D4. Both of these variations I enjoy as white. Bishop G4 is definitely a mistake here, as this allows Morphy to go ahead and win the bishop pair. That, or he wins a pawn. So the bishop pair is won. What does Morphy play here? Simple chess. We're just going to go ahead and take the pawn on E5, and bishop takes F3 is pretty much forced. Why is that? Let's go and take a look. Well, what happens if D takes E5? The bishop came out making a pin here, but this pin is only relative. A relative pin means, well, we can still move the knight away, we lose the piece, rather than the absolute pin, which is a pin whenever we have one against the king. You absolutely cannot move it because you can't put yourself into check. Well, because this happened here with the relative pin, Morphy would just be more than happy to get out of the pin by playing queen takes queen check, king takes, so black loses the right to castle, and then snack on a pawn. So you're up a pawn, you have some good development here, and you're even making more threats. What's black to do, right? Of course, we're not going to go into this variation willingly. So after this, bishop takes on F3, and how should we take back? Should we go pawn takes or queen takes? A lot of beginners here will make the mistake and say G takes on F3. The right move here, though, is queen takes. There's two big reasons why you wouldn't want to take back with your pawn. Well, one of them is pawns cannot move backwards, queens can, right? So this double pawn here is not going to be good for you. The other good reason is, well, try not to move your kingside pawns because, well, when you castle, you want your kings to be defending your king as close as possible. The further you move forward, the weaker they become. The weaker they become, the weaker your king will be. So try not to move your kingside pawn, guys. Queen takes on F3, pawn takes back, and now we develop with a threat. Going through our system, what's the next piece you should look at moving? Of course, it's the bishop on F1. Now we got to find the best square. E2, D3, C4, or B5 check. A lot of beginners here are going to play bishop B5 check. Just be careful. Whenever there's more than 3 or 4 ways to stop a check, that usually means there's going to be at least one good variation here. Something like C6 is good, and you need to retreat the bishop. Knight D7, Knight C6. There's just too many moves here that black can play here. The best way was to develop a threat and threaten checkmate, not just a check. Do you see the move now? Bishop C4 gets played with the threat of queen takes F7. Checkmate. Black goes ahead and plays. A very common move here, knight F6. And already, white has a winning move here. White to move and win some material. It's pretty amazing how fast this happens. Can you find the move? I get to play this every once in a while whenever my opponent doesn't know their chess history. Here the move is actually, oh my gosh, queen to B3. How beautiful is that? Because the light square bishop is gone, makes sense. The light squares are weak. That means B7 is weak and F7 is weak. And that's exactly what Morphy does. Queen B3 is a double attack on F7 and also the pawn on B7. And you have to play just right here. If you're not paying attention and say, you know what? Go ahead and take one of my pawns and I'll take a center pawn. Because center pawns are worth a little bit more. Knight takes E4. Uh-oh. You just got checkmated. Can you find the checkmate in 2 here? Here we start off with bishop takes F7 check. Here it doesn't matter if you play king E7 or D7. We'll go D7 here. What do you play here for white for checkmate in 1? Look at that beautiful mate. Queen to E6 checkmate. Morphy is able to create these beautiful positions so fast. Well, we can't defend both. That's why double attacks in chess are so strong. So queen e7 gets played. A very nice try here by black. What's the idea here? Well, we could try to grab the pawn on b7, but what's the idea? Here, the queen could have gone to d7 to defend it, but it went to e7. It looks like it's blocking the bishop, but here the bishop and the queen are working together. The idea is black wants to trade off queens here. Now, you can definitely do this if you want to, but probably best, at least for Morphy at this time, is to keep the queens on the board. Why is that? Well, Morphy has really seen past just winning material. He's gone to the next level of thinking, which is developing your pieces will actually get you to a faster win in the game. Because you have more pieces out, there's going to be more winning chances. That's why he's able to win this game in an astonishing 17 moves. So when queen e7 got played, queen to b4 check is being threatened. We want to block this diagonal. What do we play here to block this diagonal and develop with the piece? Not too hard here. Develop knights before bishops. We play knight c3 here. Bishop d2 can also get played, but be careful. Knight takes c4 is being threatened. And well, this bishop is not really developing with a threat here. Knight c3 is a very nice move. Queen takes b7 is now being threatened, so black goes ahead and plays pawn c6. Of course, we can't take on b7 as the queen would just take. All right, what's the next piece we want to move? It's the bishop. Develop with the threat. D2, e3, f4, g5. Which one is it? Of course, it's going to be g5. And here you can already see the big difference in this game. It's only been 9 moves, but look. Morphy has only moves the center pawns, and also he's got all his pieces developed. All the ones in the back rank. Here he has the choice of castling kingside or queenside. How's black doing? The knight's developed, although it can't move anywhere because it's pinned. The queen's developed, although it's blocking the bishop out, which means it's going to take 2 to 3 moves for black to castle, and asleep, asleep, asleep. Black is not doing too good already. They're down in pieces that can attack. Remember, big pieces are going to be the queen, knight, bishop, bishop. Black only has 2 out here. We don't count pawns as pieces. Whenever you have less pieces out to attack, it's a bad idea to attack. What does black do? They attack. Black tries to start a counterattack and plays pawn b5 here. Now, typically, we don't usually want to give up one of our minors for pawns, but here, we're up in the development by so much, we can do a sacrifice here, giving a piece of higher value for one of lower value, just so we can get a quick attack. Besides, these 2 pieces never get into the game. That's a really good point. Here we go. Which way do you want to sacrifice? Should we go knight takes, bishop takes? For those crazy people out there, queen takes? Wrong. Which way do we go here? Simple chess. We're going to try and keep these bishops on the board, so knight takes b5, pawn takes, bishop takes b5 check. You could play queen takes b5 check here, but black's going to try and make some trades here. We don't want that because that's only going to help them develop their pieces. So bishop takes b5 check is the right way to play. And black really has only one good move here. Well, we don't want to play king d8 because then you lose the right to castle. Knight f d7, lose your queen. That just leaves the last good move, knight b to d7. All right, it's your turn. What do we play here? Should we castle kingside or should we go queenside? Both these moves are going to get your king to safety. But always try to add as many ideas into your moves as possible. What should we play? Well, hopefully you chose the right move. Castle queenside, of course. Not only do we get our king to safety, but what are some other good ideas about this? We actually get to develop with the threat, right? We actually put pressure on the pin. Here we have the absolute pin because the knight absolutely cannot move because, well, that's a king. We can't put ourselves in check. And here's a relative pin. Yes, we can move the knight, but then we lose our queen. How many times do you get to castle in your game and actually make a threat? Oof, this is a very strong idea here. In the game, black goes ahead and plays rook to d8 here to defend from the attack. Well, here I ask myself, why couldn't we just castle queenside? This would make more sense as it lets the king have a little bit more space to run around, and then also allows the queen to maybe jump out and the bishop gets out. If black can develop the pieces, he's going to be winning because black has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces, but white only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So black, if the pieces get developed, will actually win this game. White needs to make sure they play this just right. The answer is simple. You just got checkmate into if you castle queenside here for black. What? You have to find the right move, though. All right, did you find the right way to get there? Here, if you played queen c4 check, I'm afraid you just lost the game. Here, black is going to play queen c5 here. And, well, you don't want to trade here as you're only going to help them out, as I said. This is an easily winning position here for black. He's down a few pawns, but he's definitely not out of the game yet. So, what's the correct way to win here? Hopefully you found it. Bishop a6 check forced. The king goes to c7, now checkmate in 1. Queen to b7. Beautiful move here. And you can see that the king cannot escape to d6 because of the rook. So, that's why black did not castle queenside in this game, and rook d8 was played. Alright, what's the next piece you want to move? It's the rook. It's the last piece to get into the game. So, rather than just developing without a plan, let's develop and try to find the best or the worst weakness here for black. Where is the weakest square? Can you find it? Well, we definitely see we have 2 pins here, but which one's weaker? The absolute pin, because they absolutely cannot move it away. Also, one of the reasons why this is a bigger threat is not only because this is a square that's weak, but it's going to be a little bit easier to get your rook to attack on d7 than it would be to get to attack on f6. So, can you find out the way to get your rook over to the d file so we can attack the d7 bishop? Here Morphy does it the Morphy way, of course. There's 3 ways to do it. Morphy's way is definitely the best because it does not lose any time at all. Black has no time to react. He just has to sit back and watch the ride. What do we play here? Well, most people will give this variation. They'll play rook to he1. Not a bad idea. They'll go rook e3 and then rook d3. But that takes 3 moves here. And how important is 3 moves? Well, if you allow your opponent, they're just going to go ahead and castle. Yes, they will be winning some pieces here, but at least black was able to survive here. White's winning. We just could win more precise and a bit better. All right. Any other ideas to double up rooks on the d file? Here, the second best way, hopefully you found this way, rook d3, g6, double up, bishop g7, and this king is not castling anytime soon. Bishop takes d7 check. You're going to win this game very nicely here. You probably will even win the queen in some variations. All right, well, how is it possible to get your rook over here without wasting any tempos? Remember, the forced moves, checks, captures, and threats. This should have been one of the moves you considered. You probably didn't consider it because it looked crazy, but the move here is rook takes d7. Oh my gosh. Typically, when something's defended 1, 2, 3, 4 times, it's usually defended. Unfortunately here, there is no good defense to this rook takes d7 or any good capture. Well, can we take back with the knight? No, we're going to lose the queen. Queen takes, we lose it. King takes, not allowed. And the last one, rook takes on d7. Which one's the best? Yeah, we just have to play rook takes on d7 here. Develop with the threat. Let's get our last piece into the game. We play rook to d1. Queen e6. Here black is begging, please, 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 can we trade queens? If it ain't check, it ain't right, like I like to tell my students. What did Morphy play here? Here he gets a beautiful checkmate in 3. Although this was not forced, if you do not go through the forced checkmate, then you're going to be losing your queen. So what's the check we start off with here? We start off with bishop takes d7. Of course, you should not play queen takes as after f takes. Yes, you will win a piece here. Bishop takes on f6, g takes, and bishop takes check, king f7. But you can see the game is not over here. Black has chances in this game. Opposite color bishop. Why go into these kind of situations when you can checkmate your opponent in famous fashion? So, don't trade queens here. Bishop takes d7 check. And this is the move. If he plays queen takes d7, he'll survive for a bit longer, but he's still in a lost position here. Here where we have rook takes on d7, which is just winning. Here the only logical move was knight takes d7, which gets famously checkmated in 2. White to move. Can you figure it out? The final position is called Morphy's mate. It is so famous that it actually got its own checkmate name. Alright, what's the move here? If it ain't check, it ain't right. Well, in this position, there's only 2 checks here. We have queen takes e6 check, but pawn just takes. Is there anything there? No, not at all. Queen b8 check? That looks good, but the knight can just take. The reason why it's so famous is because it looks so impossible. Here, believe it or not, it is queen to b8 check. Wait a second, don't we just lose our queen? Here, knight is forced to take, and hopefully you see the checkmate in 1 now. The final 2 pieces on the board, checkmate is delivered, rook to d8, and this is definitely a triumph. Like I said, only 17 moves here, and you can see black's rook and bishop never gone to the game. Look at the pawn structure. This is perfect. Why is this perfect? Because white was only moving the big pieces. They didn't have to use the pawns to attack. fact, you shouldn't move your pawns because the further you move forward, the weaker they will become. And a good end game, you want to have these guys all in the back row. Well, hope you enjoyed this Morphy's mate here with the final position. All the sleeping pieces on the board and the queen misplaced. We'll see you in the next one.